In Shulchan Aruch, Maran writes that one should be very careful to eat a third meal on Shabbat, and even if one feels full, they could fulfill the mitzvah by eating 2 ounces. However, if one is so full that they can't eat at all, they are not obligated to make themselves suffer. However, one should plan accordingly when eating the second meal and leave room for Seudah Shelishit. Maran also writes that one must have bread for Seudah Shelishit. Maran then cites 3 more opinions, each one prefaced by, and some say. According to some, one could have any food from the 5 grains like wheat or barley, including cake, cookies, and crackers for Seudah Shelishit. Others say that one could have foods that are normally eaten with bread, like meat or fish, but they can't fulfill the mitzvah by just having fruit or vegetables. And yet others say even just fruit or vegetables are sufficient. After presenting all of these opinions in Shulchan Aruch, Maran concludes that the first opinion, requiring bread, is the main opinion, unless one is very full, in which case they may rely on the other opinions. What was the custom in Halab? Rabbi Yitzhak Harari, a prominent halachic authority in Halab in the 18th century, discussed a case in his book Zichor Yitzhak, where one had breakfast on Shabbat morning with foods that are borei minei mezonot, as was the common practice at that time in Halab, and then they had another meal with bread in the afternoon. Rabbi Yitzhak ruled that since the second meal on Shabbat must include bread, the breakfast, which was only with mezonot, did not count as a Shabbat meal, and therefore, in his opinion, the afternoon meal with bread is considered his second Shabbat meal, even though he ate it in the afternoon, which is already the time for Seudah Shelishit. So he writes that this person must recite Birkat HaMazon and then have another meal afterwards for Seudah Shelishit. Now, even though Rabbi Yitzhak acknowledged in this responsa that Maran requires bread for Seudah Shelishit, he writes that after Birkat HaMazon, it would be sufficient for this person to eat other foods and fruits in accordance to what they said the law is for Seudah Shelishit, referring to the other opinions cited by Maran in Shulchan Aruch. So from here we see that even though the custom in Halab is normally in accordance with the opinion of Maran, with regards to Seudah Shelishit, it was customary to rely on the other opinions quoted in Shulchan Aruch. In the 20th century, Hakam Yitzhak Tawil was quoted as saying that in Halab, some ate bread for Seudah Shelishit, while others did not. Rabbi Shlomo Antepi Saka wrote that in Argentina, Hakam Yitzhak Shahebar ate ka'ak for Seudah Shelishit, and that's what was served to his congregation. Here in Brooklyn in the 1980s, Sha'arei Tzion served ka'ak and cake for Seudah Shelishit, and in other community synagogues, they served mizonot with fruit and soft drinks. It was only in more recent times that community synagogues began offering bread for Seudah Shelishit for those that want to fulfill the mitzvah of Seudah Shelishit, according to all of the poskim, including Maran and Shulchan Aruch.